Okay, so I have a hypothetical for you. You got a long year, you are desperate for a vacation, you find a hotel that looks incredible, historic, beautiful lobby, maybe a clawfoot tub,
Yeah.
but there's a catch. With absolute certainty that this room has a history. Maybe a crime happened there 50 years ago. Maybe guests keep waking up to the smell of cigar smoke when nobody's smoking. Do you book the room?
That is the ultimate test, isn't it? It's that curiosity paradox. We say we want rest and relaxation, but there's a part of our brain that's just so attracted to the macabre. We want to be near the danger, just not, the victim of it.
Exactly. It's safety-adjacent fear.
Hmm.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into places where that safety buffer might be a little thinner than you'd like. We're looking at a really great stack of research centered on Anna Green's piece for Mental Floss, 20 of America's Most Haunted Hotels. It was just updated for 2025.
Right.
And I want to be clear right off the bat. Our mission here isn't just to tell campfire stories or, yell boo.
No, because when you actually dig into these places, you realize you're not just looking at ghost stories. You're looking at history. These buildings are like geological layers of American trauma and celebration and tragedy.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it.
You've got the Roaring Twenties, the Civil War, the Asylum era. It's all preserved in amber.
It's architectural memory. And some of the details we're going to cover are they're genuinely unsettling because they are so specific. We're not just talking about creaky floorboards.
No.
We're talking about meth labs exploding, specific nightmares that shaped pop culture, and I'm still not over this one, ghosts that have a foot fetish.
We will definitely have to unpack the psychology of the foot tickler a little later, but you're right. The specificity is what makes these accounts so credible, or at the very least terrifying.
So let's check in. And if we're talking haunted hotels, we have to start with the cultural titan. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado.
You have to.
If you say haunted hotel, that's the white Georgian building that pops into everyone's head.
It's unavoidable. It's been permanently etched into our collective consciousness, all because of Stephen King and The Shining.
Right.
But what I found so fascinating in this research is how much the mythology of King's stay is different from the reality of it.
Yeah, because the story everyone tells is that King saw a ghost, got scared, wrote the book, but the reality was so much more internal. It wasn't about what he saw, it was about the atmosphere.
Precisely. And context is everything here. He stayed in room 217, but it wasn't just any night, it was the very last night of the season.
Wow.
The staff was packing up, the hotel was closing for the winter the next day, so you've got this massive echoing building, completely empty except for him and his wife.
And the source mentions they went down to dinner in the grand dining room, and there was an orchestra playing to a sea of empty tables. That image alone is creepier to me than a monster.
It's so surreal. It creates this sense of dislocation, and that night, he didn't see a ghost. He had a nightmare. And it wasn't a vague, something's chasing me dream. He dreamt his 3-year-old son was running through the corridors, screaming, "Oh, man."
Being chased by a fire hose, looking back over his shoulder with these wide, terrified eyes. Which is the emotional core of The Shining, right? It's not about ghosts. It's about parental anxiety, the fear of failing your child.
Exactly. But while King's experience was psychological, the Stanley does have a reputation for the unexplainable that goes way beyond bad dreams.
Oh, for sure.
It seems to be a collection point for high strangeness. You have the standard stuff, unexplained piano music, laughter in the halls. But the detail that really caught my eye was the stinky man.
The stinky man. I know, this breaks all the rules of ghost lore. It's supposed to be like the scent of lavender or rose perfume.
Or pipe tobacco, not just a bad smell, a malodorous spirit. But here's the key point. He has no known affiliation with the hotel. He didn't die there. He wasn't a guest.
He's just a random smelly entity.
Which supports the beacon theory in paranormal research.
The idea that certain locations act like batteries.
Exactly. That a location with enough limestone or quartz or just enough emotional history acts as a magnet. It attracts entities that have no business being there. It's basically a spiritual tourist trap.
Speaking of energy, and especially that contrast between high society and, well, rock bottom, we have to talk about the Hotel Blackhawk in Davenport, Iowa. This story blew my mind. The timeline of this building is like a tragic biopic.
It's a perfect example of architectural schizophrenia. When it was built in 1915, it was the place to be. High glamour, movie stars. But as the Midwest's economy shifted, the hotel fell hard. By the 90s, it wasn't hosting galas anymore.
No. And the detail that proves that fall from grace is the explosion. And we're not talking about like a boiler malfunction.
No. In 2006, a meth lab, exploded on the 8th floor.
A meth lab exploded. Just pause and visualize that.
Yeah.
A building designed for tuxedos and champagne, and then the 8th floor gets blown out by a meth cooking operation. What a rough century.
And that trauma leaves a mark. The hotel has been beautifully restored, but the ghosts seem to reflect that confusion. You have reports of women in red and blue evening gowns, residue of the 20s parties, but then you have this massive celebrity connection.
Cary Grant.
The legend himself. I actually didn't know he died there.
Me neither. Not until we read this. In 1986, he collapsed in Suite 903. And now people report seeing him. Such a tragic juxtaposition.
It is. You have the spirit of Cary Grant, the epitome of class, haunting the same hallways that later hosted a meth lab explosion. It just proves that buildings are vessels. They hold on to everything indiscriminately.
It's layers of history pressing down. And we want to talk about layers. We have to go back to the Colonial Inn in Concord, Massachusetts. We're talking 1716.
This is deep history. And yeah, the marketing might mention Ralph Waldo Emerson lived there, which is nice. But the real story, the one that keeps people up at night, is room 24.
Room 24, which used to be an operating room. And we need to be very clear about what operating room meant in the 1700s.
We do. This was Dr. James Monod's practice. This is an era before anesthesia, before sterilization, before antibiotics. Surgery back then wasn't healthcare. It was trauma. It was amputation. It was agony.
So if you believe in stone tape theory, that intense emotion imprints on a space, then room 24 is basically a nuclear reactor of pain.
Precisely. The amount of adrenaline and terror concentrated in those four walls, it's amazing the room is habitable at all.
It makes you wonder about the ethics of renting it out. Here's your key. Enjoy the spectral residue of 18th century amputations.
It is certainly a niche market.
Let's pivot from medical horrors to something a bit more chaotic. The Jazz Age. It seems like the 1920s is the most active era for American hauntings. Why do you think that is?
It was a decade of such extreme volatility. You had Prohibition, which created this whole culture of secrecy and organized crime. You had the post-war boom, this sudden, immense wealth, and a kind of manic live fast, die young energy. That creates a lot of unfinished business.
The Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables, Florida, feels like a perfect case study for that. It's got that great Gatsby grandeur, but with a dark underbelly.
It does. It was a playground for socialites and the mob. But look at its life cycle. During World War II, it was a military hospital. Then in the 70s, it was just abandoned.
Oh, that abandoned phase is so creepy. The source said they filmed a horror movie there because they didn't need to build a set. The decay was real.
Right. But the ghost that endures isn't a soldier. It's Thomas Fatty Walsh, a mobster, shot and killed over a gambling debt in 1929.
A frozen moment of violence.
Exactly. A sudden, violent death in a place of luxury. That contrast seems to lock the spirit in place.
And that idea of a locked moment or a loop is literally what's happening at the Hotel Endra in Seattle. This one gave me actual chills.
The eternal party.
Right. Guests on the 9th floor report hearing a full-blown 1920s speakeasy party. Jazz music, clinking glasses, laughter.
Breaking glass, it's loud.
Yeah.
But here's the detail that separates a residual haunting from an intelligent one. When guests go out into the hallway to complain.
Silence.
Instant silence.
Which suggests it's not a ghost actively messing with you.
No, it's a recording. The building is just replaying a memory of a rowdy night from 1925. And when you step out, you disrupt the playback.
I find that almost sadder than a ghost. It's just an echo. But then you have the Copper Queen Hotel in Bisbee, Arizona, where the haunting is intensely, uncomfortably personal.
The story of Julia Lowell.
A sex worker in the 1920s and 30s.
Right. Bisbee was a rough mining town. Julia worked out of the hotel. The story goes, she fell in love with a client, he rejected her, and she took her own life.
And now she haunts room 315. But she doesn't just rattle chains. She appears as white smoke, which is standard. But then she whispers in guests' ears.
That intimacy, that breaks a barrier. Seeing a ghost down a long hallway is scary. But feeling a cold breath and hearing a whisper right against your ear, that is an invasion of personal space.
It feels desperate.
It is. It speaks to her death. She wanted connection, she was denied it, and now, in death, she's aggressively seeking that proximity.
I would take the noisy jazz party over the whisper any day.
It triggers a very primal, get-away-from-me response.
Now, not all these spirits are tragic or scary. Some of them honestly just seem like they have great work ethic.
Yes. The spirits who never clocked out.
Like Thomas Taggart at the French Lick Springs Hotel in Indiana. He's the owner, died in 1929, but apparently he's still micromanaging the service elevator.
The staff swears by it. They say that when the hotel gets really busy, And only when it's busy. The service elevator starts operating on its own. It moves to floors where it's needed before anyone even pushes the button.
That is honestly kind of sweet. It's hospitality transcending mortality. I don't care if I'm dead. We have a wedding party at 3 p.m. Let's move people.
He's dedicated to the craft. And then you have the Beechwood Inn in Massachusetts. This is less helpful manager and more mischievous grandmother.
The lady who unscrews the light bulbs, which is the pettiest form of haunting, isn't it? It's not scary, it's just inconvenient.
It's mild annoyance. But the innkeeper insists the spirit is polite. She claims the ghost sometimes wishes her good morning.
Okay, so you have a roommate you can't see who messes with the electricity. I can handle that.
Yeah.
What I cannot handle is the pink lady at the Grove Park Inn in Asheville.
Yes. We have arrived at the foot tickler.
Why?
Why?
Well, all the things a ghost could do.
The pink lady, she appears as a pink mist. She turns the AC on and off. But yes, multiple guests have reported waking up to their feet being tickled.
That feels so specific and so violating. You're asleep. You're under the covers. You're safe. And then something touches your feet.
It's playful, sure, but it triggers a deep biological defense mechanism. It's the classic monster under the bed fear, but it's actually making contact. It crosses a boundary.
Hard pass.
Yeah.
I'm wearing combat boots to bed if I stay there.
Probably a wise choice.
Okay, we've had some fun, but we need to pivot to the places where the history is undeniably heavy. We talked about hospitals, but there's a specific category that carries even more weight. The asylum.
This brings us to the Hotel Park Central in Albuquerque.
Which used to be a psychiatric institute for children and young adults.
And you have to treat that history with gravity. These were often places of confusion, mistreatment, intense suffering. When you convert a place like that into a luxury hotel, you are overlaying leisure on top of deep trauma.
It's a cognitive dissonance. You're there for a cocktail on the rooftop bar, but the foundation of the building was designed to contain troubled minds.
And the activity supports that. The investigation group, Los Muertos Spirit Seekers, recorded unexplained voices, sudden temperature drops, and that pervasive feeling of being watched.
It's like the anxiety of the former patients is still vibrating in the walls.
Exactly. You can renovate the lobby, but you can't renovate the vibe.
New Orleans feels like the capital of this kind of layering. The Bourbon Orleans Hotel. It seems to have been everything except a hotel for most of its life.
It's a microcosm of New Orleans history. It was a ballroom, a legislative meeting place, then a convent and an orphanage.
So the ghost roster is completely incoherent.
Yeah.
You have Confederate soldiers mixing with Catholic nuns and children.
It's a chaotic spiritual ecosystem. It doesn't make narrative sense because history doesn't always make narrative sense. It's just a pileup of different eras.
And then you have the Hotel Monaco in D.C., formerly the Marshall House. This is Civil War specific. And the haunting feels like an eternal standoff.
Yes. The 6th floor is said to be haunted by James W. Jackson and Colonel Elmer Ellsworth. And what's fascinating is they were enemies. Ellsworth was a Union officer. Jackson was the Confederate sympathizer who killed him and was then killed himself, right there.
So they killed each other, and now they're stuck together.
That's the implication, trapped in the moment of their mutual destruction.
We can't do this topic without addressing the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles.
The Cecil is. Yeah, it's in a category of its own. It's not just haunted in the traditional sense. It is infamous.
It's cultural infamy. Serial killers like Richard Ramirez stayed there. The Elisa Lam tragedy. The sheer number of suicides.
It has absorbed so much darkness that the darkness has become the brand. It was recently supportive housing, and it was put up for sale in 2024, but the reputation is indelible. The real haunting there is just the accumulation of human misery.
It feels like a place where the bad things humans do have seeped into the concrete.
It's a heavy, heavy place.
Let's end on some of the strangest, most specific encounters, because some of these just don't fit the standard mold, like the Notchland Inn in New Hampshire.
This one is fascinating because of an interior design choice. In the parlor, there is an actual gravestone.
Wait, who puts a gravestone in the parlor?
It's for Nancy Barton from 1778. The story is tragic. Her fiancé stole her money and abandoned her. She died in a snowstorm chasing him on foot.
But her haunting isn't just, I'm sad. It's communicative.
She writes symbols on the bathroom mirrors in steam.
Even when the shower isn't running.
That's the detail that gets me. It implies a desperate attempt to communicate something. We just don't know the language.
And we see that same desire to be acknowledged at the Gadsden Hotel in Arizona. This is where we move from anecdotes to actual data management. The front desk keeps 2 binders full of guest reports.
You know you have a problem when you have to start archiving the ghost stories in 3-ring binders.
And the reports are aggressive. Hair pulling, TVs turning off, people being pinned to the bed.
But the manager, Robin Breckes, had an encounter that was surprisingly human. She saw a cowboy ghost in the basement wearing a long duster coat.
And he didn't scream or attack her?
No, she said he just wanted to make eye contact.
He wanted to be seen.
Exactly. We talk about ghosts as monsters, but in so many of these accounts, like the shadowy man at the inn on Ferry Street who grabs guests' arms as they fall asleep, it feels like a desperate plea for acknowledgement. I am still here. Don't ignore me.
It's lonely.
It is profoundly lonely.
And finally, there's the Lord Baltimore Hotel in Maryland. This one feels like a scene from a movie. It's so visual.
The girl with the red ball.
A young girl in a long dress, black shoes, bouncing a red ball on the 19th floor.
It's such a vivid splash of color, that red ball against the hallway. It feels cinematic, but so many people report seeing it. Which brings us back to that central question. What are we actually looking at?
Right. When you step back and look at this whole list, from meth labs to 18th century operating rooms to the girl with the ball, what's the takeaway?
I think the takeaway is that buildings are not passive. We like to think of them as just bricks and mortar that we can renovate and repurpose. We turn an asylum into a spa. We turn a Civil War hospital into a luxury suite. We think a coat of paint hides the past.
But the building doesn't forget.
The building acts as a time capsule. These hauntings are essentially history refusing to be evicted. Whether it's the trauma of war or the mania of the Jazz Age, the energy persists.
So when we check in, we're not just checking into a room. We're checking into the past.
You are sharing that room with everyone who has ever been there and everything that has ever happened there.
Which leaves us with the final thought I want you to chew on. If you are brave enough to book one of these rooms tonight, are you actually afraid of seeing a ghost? Or are you afraid that the history of the room, all those secrets, all that pain, all that life, is staring back at you?
And that is the difference between a vacation and an encounter.
Check under the bed, everyone. Thanks for diving in with us.